President Biden has started using a CPAP machine to sleep, an apparatus used to treat sleep apnea. In a statement issued Wednesday, White House spokesman Andrew Bates said, quote, "Since 2008, the president has disclosed his history with sleep apnea. In thorough medical reports, he used a CPAP machine last night, which is common for people with that history," end quote. Biden's history of sleep apnea dates back to 2008, but it did not appear in his latest medical report conducted February, in which the White House physician wrote he is, quote, "fit for duty."
But still, some are growing more skeptical that Biden is up to the task of leading the country. He's come under fire for multiple gaffes, appearing to confuse international conflicts. We talked about that yesterday, but for those who missed it, let's just take a look again.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. Whether or not they're pulling back from Fallujah and from the Kherson. You know, we're dealing with it. For whole second, inflation is a worldwide problem right now because of a war in Iraq and the impact on oil and what Russia's doing.
To what extent has Vladimir Putin been weakened by recent events? It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq. He's losing the war at home.
So this was noticed because he had the marks on his face, indicating the device you wear for sleep apnea. So he was asked about it. This is a condition that I know people in my family who've had. It tends to have to do with weight gain and age, I suppose, but more weight. He's obviously, whatever else you can say about his physical or mental state, he's not. He hasn't put on weight. He's not obese by any stretch of the imagination. He's in good health in that respect. So maybe a little bit surprising that he's had to resort to this.
Yeah, that is, I think, the biggest part of the mystery to me is what medically indicates him needing this device. Look, CPAP gate does feel a little bit overblown. It became a trending topic yesterday, and the pushback was, really, is this what we're talking about? But it is being read in the broader context of, is this person both physically and mentally fit as the oldest president in the history of the United States of America? And he's not going to be able to escape this kind of scrutiny going into 2024. And so the question becomes, do you think that this is sufficiently a liability to need to drop out? Because you're not going to be able to quash the conversation constantly about whether or not you are fit for office. And notably, it's really not the physical aspect that's been emphasized so much. It is the question of whether or not he's cognitively fit.
Right, but there is a kind of, absolutely, but a sort of physical frailty that makes one can't help but wonder about the mental state. Even noticing the markings, right, has to do with when you get older, you bruise more easily, your skin reflects, the marks of being pressed on or something much more readily. The signs of that become more apparent. I'm sure we've all, experienced that with our grandparents and other elderly people in our life. So that it's a constant reminder of just how old he is compared to every president who's come before him.
He would be 86 at the end of his second term, which, there are many healthy people. Noam Chomsky, I think, is in his mid-90s now and seems sharp as a tack. And
we just celebrated Mel Brooks' 96th birthday.
Yeah, I think
he's still hilarious.
Yeah, so it runs the gamut. Now, some liberals were
Chuck
also
Grassley's 89.
Wild. Which is maybe also just an indictment of our political system and the lack of turnover. But, some liberals were also pushing back because in the context of making fun of Joe Biden for mixing up Ukraine and Iraq, some commentators also slipped up and mixed up Ukraine and Iraq. Let's take a look at that clip from Jesse Waters' show last night.
And then he comes out and he confuses Iraq with Afghanistan. Fine. Just don't send Iraq $800 million.
Yeah, look, it's easy to do. I did it yesterday when I said when we were organizing what clips we wanted to talk about the Iraq-Ukraine confusion. I said, get that clip of Trump confusing Ukraine and Iraq. But what I meant was George Bush.
Right.
And we played the Bush clip. So this doesn't always mean anything, what you have on the brain. I think the fact that it's easy to summon Iraq, actually, or maybe that there's an impulse to say Iraq is actually a reminder of just what the catastrophic Iraq-related decisions that policymakers in both parties, including Joe Biden and George Bush, made are maybe on their mind a lot.
Yes, when you've been talking about a war for 20 years.
Right. A war that was a disaster and chosen for on the basis of bad information and destabilized an entire region, and is now widely believed, including by, I think, most Republicans.
Right.
There may be more Republicans than Democrats who think the Iraq War was a mistake at this point.
Right. So I think one of this dovetails with something else we've been talking about, which is the Democratic Party's refusal to hold debates. And we've spoken to other segments about RFK Jr.'s town hall last night and how, frankly, hearing from him at length is going to be a benefit to him in the eyes of the mainstream public opinion. That being said, I mean, does the performance from RFK Jr. last night make you reflect on Joe Biden's choice not to want to debate him? I mean, if you were in Joe Biden's camp, does that maybe seem like a good idea, but from an American democracy standpoint, seem like a very bad idea?
Right, and let's say you're the DNC. I mean, if you signaled as the DNC more openness to debate and to other candidates and to an actually democratic process, you might get other people who would be interested, like Gavin Newsom or maybe popular Democratic governors who are more popular in their states even than that. Josh Shapiro, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, is super popular. Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, is super popular. These people.
Those people aren't beating Trump.
Well, you don't like them, I know.
No, it's not. I don't know anything. It's not about that. But they're not beating Trump. Trump is a unique quality. I mean, that's what the conservatives.
Trump. We don't know who the nominee will be.
Sure, but that is the concern from the Democratic Party, is that Trump's traction with the public and perception as being uniquely authentic and kind of unpredictable means that only a certain kind of person, it's not about how well you're liked in Pennsylvania, it's a certain kind of person with a certain kind of attitude who can hold up against that in a debate. And Joe Biden, like it or not, is the only Democrat who's ever managed to beat Donald Trump. And there, I think, is an investment in him for that reason. And because he has this long career in Congress, the public, even if they don't like him, the way we're talking about him, the way that Jesse Waters is talking about his age or his cognitive ability, no one's really impugning his personality, his integrity. I mean, as a leftist, I critique those kinds of things all the time. But broadly speaking, folks think he's a good guy, even if they disagree with him or think he's doing a bad job on the economy or what have you. And I think that's why the Democratic Party is so reluctant to let him go. Now, I do think that they're putting some folks in the wings. I think that it's not an accident that Gavin Newsom has had these high-profile media events recently. I think that there are emergency contingencies for a world in which something does happen that disqualifies Joe Biden from running.
I think those contingencies are for if something medical happens to Joe Biden. Right.
I agree.
They're not going to.
I agree. But I think that it's only the medical thing that can disrupt Biden. I think that the reason for that is that he's seen as having, rightly or wrongly, unique qualities that advantage him in a contest with Donald Trump.
If something medically were to happen to him, the fight that would ensue between Kamala Harris and potentially a Gavin Newsom or other figures.
You really think that Kamala is going to put up a fight?
I do. I think I don't think she's popular with the people. I think the establishment will back her.
I don't think she wants it.
Oh, that's nonsense. Of course she does. Everyone wants it.
No.
Everyone wants power.
Kamala Harris
she
has
relentlessly wants
we don't
power.
have to debate this again. I think getting rid of Kamala Harris is the easiest part of shuffling Biden off of the ticket.
Maybe it will never happen in a million years, but we'll see.
All right.
More Rising right after this.